Have you ever wondered why bad things happen to good people? Today, let's delve into one of humanity's most intriguing and profound stories, the saga of Job. Imagine losing everything you love and still keeping your faith. This isn't just an ancient tale, it's a thrilling journey that challenges our deeper beliefs. Discover the mysteries of Job, a man who faced the unimaginable and still remained steadfast. Stay with us and see how this ancient story still powerfully resonates in our lives today. In this biblical story from the book of Job, we meet a rich man named Job who lived in a region known as Uz. He had a large family and had huge herds. Job was an upright and just person, always committed to living a moral life and had a very disciplined relationship with God. In the land of Uz, there lived a man whose name was Job. This man was blameless and honest. He feared God and avoided evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yokes of oxen, 500 donkeys, and a large number of servants. He was considered the greatest among all the peoples of the East. Job's children used to hold parties at their homes on their birthdays and invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. After a period of celebrations, Job organized a purification ritual for them. Early in the morning he offered a burnt sacrifice for each one, thinking, "Perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." This was Job's constant practice, as described in the first chapter, verses 1 through 5. God highlighted Job's virtues to Satan. However, Satan argued that Job was righteous only because God favored him abundantly. One day, the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan was also among them. The Lord asked Satan, "Where do you come from?" Satan answered the Lord by walking throughout the earth, coming and going through it. Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you noticed my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him, a man of integrity and uprightness, who fears God and shuns evil." "Does Job fear God for no reason?" replied Satan. "You have not placed a protection around him, his house and everything he owns? You have blessed everything he does, and his flocks and herds have spread throughout the earth." These dialogues between God and Satan are narrated in the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 6 to 10. Satan challenged God, saying that if he were allowed to inflict suffering on Job, he would change and curse God. God allowed Satan to torment Job to test this bold claim, but forbade him to take Job's life. "But stretch out your hand and attack everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face," the Lord said to him. Satan: "Very well, then, all that he possesses is in your power, but do not lay a hand on the man himself." Then Satan left the presence of the Lord. These events are described in the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 11 and 12. Job received 4 pieces of news in a single day, informing him that his sheep, servants, and 10 children had died, victims of thieves or natural disasters. One day, while Job's sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine in their older brother's house, a messenger came to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby, when the Sabaeans attacked and took them away. They killed the servants with the sword, and I was the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger arrived and said, "The fire of God fell from the heavens and burned the sheep and the servants, and I was the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger arrived. The Chaldeans formed 3 attack groups and made a surprise attack on their camels, taking them away. They killed the servants with the sword, and I was the only one who managed to escape to inform you. Still speaking, another messenger arrived, saying, "Your sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine in their elder brother's house, when suddenly a strong wind came from the desert and hit the 4 corners of the house. It collapsed on them, and they died. I'm the only one who escaped to tell you." These tragic events are described in the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 13 to 19. In his mourning, Job tore his clothes and shaved his head, but he still praised God in his prayers. Then Job arose, tore his robe, shaved his head, and fell to the ground and worshipped, saying, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this, Job did not sin or attribute any fault to God. This answer from Job is in the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 20 to 22. Satan appears in heaven again, and God gives him another opportunity to test Job. This time, Job suffers from terrible skin sores. Job's wife tries to persuade him to curse God and give up life, but he resists and tries to endure his sufferings. Two plots are skillfully intertwined, one heavenly and the other earthly. Events on earth are the result of something that has already occurred in heaven, just as there is war on earth immediately after a conflict in heaven, as in the book of Revelation. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, three of Job's friends, arrive to console him, sitting with him in silence for 7 days out of respect for his grief. Job speaks on the 7th day, beginning a dialogue in which each of the 4 men offers poetic descriptions of their problems. Job curses the day of his birth, comparing life and death to light and darkness. He wishes he had never been born and that his birth had been covered in darkness, feeling that life only increases his agony. Eliphaz responds that Job, who previously comforted others, now admits that he was never truly aware of their suffering. Eliphaz concludes that Job's pain must be due to some sin he has committed, and recommends that Job seek God's favor. Bildad and Zophar agree that Job must have committed some evil to provoke God's justice and argue that he should try to demonstrate more innocent behavior. Bildad supposes that Job's sons brought death upon themselves. Worse still, Zophar insinuates that any mistake Job committed would deserve far more pain than he received. Job reacts to each of these comments, becoming so angry that he calls his friends useless doctors who mask their help with lies. My ears have heard and understood this. What you know, I also know. I am not inferior to you. But I desire to speak with the Almighty and argue my case with God. Yet you slander me with lies. You are all useless doctors. Job questions why God judges people based on their actions when he could easily correct or forgive those actions. Job is perplexed as to how a human being can completely satisfy God's justice, given that God's ways are mysterious and beyond human understanding. Furthermore, humans cannot convince God with their words. God is not deceived, and Job admits that he does not even know himself well enough to plead his case before God. Job longs for someone who can mediate between him and God, so that he will not be condemned to Sheol, the underworld. Job believes that, in heaven, there is a witness or Redeemer who will attest to his integrity. I know that my Redeemer lives and that, in the end, he will stand on the earth. And, right now my witness is in heaven, my advocate is on high. The suffering becomes unbearable for Job, and he becomes bitter, anxious, and frightened. He laments the injustice of God allowing evil people to prosper while he and many other honest people suffer. Job wants to face God and protest, but he cannot physically meet him. He thinks that wisdom is hidden from humanity, but he decides to pursue it by fearing God and avoiding evil. Eventually, God intervenes in the divine dialogue of the first round. During his speeches, Job asked God 36 times to speak to him. Now, your wish is granted. The 2 times God appears in the speeches, he responds from within a storm. God does not offer an explanation to Job, but rather asks a series of questions that highlight divine majesty and wisdom. These questions are fundamental. Does Job know how the foundations of the earth were laid? Does the rain fall where no human lives? Do thunder and lightning come from your order? These questions demonstrate the complexity of the world and indicate that divine justice cannot be understood through human logic, since the world is enigmatic to humanity. God talks about 2 of the most formidable animals of his creation, Behemoth and Leviathan. God describes Behemoth as one who eats grass like an ox and has a strength that resides in his belly. He swings his tail like a cedar, the tendons of his thighs are intertwined, his bones are like bronze tubes, and his legs like iron bars. God creates a scenario in which it is unlikely that a man, or Job himself, would be able to subdue such a creature. Leviathan, a colossal sea monster that Job could never capture. Leviathan exhales smoke through its nostrils and has scales that are real armor. He is so powerful that nature itself moves away from his path. Job is asked to consider that if he is not able to subdue Behemoth or Leviathan, how can he understand or question the Creator who made them? Job accepts divine greatness and power. In his humility, he recognizes his smallness in the face of the infinity of God's mysteries. God does not directly inform Job of the reasons for his suffering, but restores him to his original condition. Then the Lord not only restored all that Job had lost, but gave him double what he previously possessed. The Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the first. He had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 teams of oxen, and 1,000 donkeys. He also had 7 other sons and 3 daughters. God also rebukes Job's friends for not speaking truthfully about him, as Job did, and commands them to offer sacrifices as Job prays for his forgiveness. In the end, Job's story is a powerful lesson in perseverance, faith, and infinite divine wisdom, reminding us that even in the most painful trials, there is a greater purpose that is often beyond our understanding.